Warning, this video will contain spoilers for The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 5, Go-Getters, so do be cautious as you go ahead and watch this video. What is going on, everyone? This is NinjaGeek here, and welcome back to another Walking Dead review video. In this video, we find more about Maggie, Sasha, and going to the hilltop, and what have you. And we get to find more about Gregory, who we actually didn't see for a very long time, and how he actually is stepping down from leadership under Jesus' command, who Maggie might eventually then take over the hilltop community after the Saviors storm in. But first of all, before that, I'd like to start off with the references, and there was a lot of symbols within this episode, more I think than any other Walking Dead episode, which is why I want to talk about that here. And first of all, the first thing that I really want to mention is pretty much, I think this was an unintentional symbol, that they really didn't mean to symbolize this in an intentional way, but the fact when Maggie woke up from the hilltop and she was really obviously confused, and she even asked for the hilltop doctor to repeat what he said to her, because she had no idea what he was even saying about her baby. And of course we find out that the baby is in fact okay, by the way. But just that fact of confusion and looking at the flowers sitting in bed reminds me an awful lot of going back to season 1 when Rick was in the coma, very confused, nobody was around, and looking at the dead flowers on the table at the time, when of course when Shane brought them they were regular, but now weeks later they were dead. And I get that's kind of same feeling when we're talking about Maggie and looking at this confusion. I don't think it was an intentional throwback to that, but it just reminded me of that, and just as an unintentional thing. But then going on further, just not that much further within the episode, like literally right after we get out of seeing Maggie, Sasha shows Maggie Herschel's pocket watch. Essentially Herschel's pocket watch, because now it was Glenn's, but obviously, it originally was Herschel's all the way back from season 2, if you remember correctly. Not really hard to remember when Herschel gave Glenn Herschel's pocket watch, and he almost regretted doing it, and he only gave it to him because he thought that he was really, really special to Maggie. And now that both of them are gone within this universe, it's just a really powerful symbol that they really wanted to stress throughout this entire episode, that this symbol of Glenn's pocket watch, now that used to be Herschel's pocket watch, now Glenn's pocket watch, now is just like, it still carries on. And at the end of the episode, Maggie actually gives the pocket watch to Enid. Very, very interesting how they incorporated that into the episode, and how Maggie's point of view stands on how she feels about Glenn. The preview from last week's episode kind of was a little bit confusing, because we get to see Michonne kind of struggling between which situation does she follow, and does she completely go with Rick and follow him? She doesn't really want to do that, but at the same time she doesn't want to deny that, so she's really in the middle. Carl obviously wants to end Negan, he wants revenge, complete revenge, and Rick does not want that. And before we even saw this preview, we didn't know, but the before part of it was Rick trying to talk to Carl about what was going to happen, how Rick was going out to scavenge. And Carl is just, well, first of all, number one, he's obviously literally missing every single shot of playing darts that he can, because obviously, of course, he's missing an eye, and we all know that. But I think it was somewhat of an intentional symbolism within there, because he really doesn't understand Rick's point, and him missing every single shot is like saying that without saying it. In other words, it's not, it's not like he's saying like straight to his face, so I don't understand this, or I don't see your side or your point of view on the situation. And then you take a look at how he's missing every single shot. He's getting like kind of frustrated with what he's saying, but he didn't say it really to his face. He asked why, but he didn't really say that he completely disagrees with Rick. But the missing of the darts, I think, really exemplifies Carl's point of view on what he wants to do, especially when we find out what he does later on in the episode. So obviously we know that these saviors are coming to the hilltop. They pretty much own now Alexandria. They own the kingdom where King Ezekiel is, and hopefully we get to see him in the future too. I know we will, because that episode was very interesting. But now we get to see the saviors taking control, I guess, of the hilltop, and they have before, but now it's a little bit different, because the saviors don't know that the Hilltop has an agreement with Alexandria. They have no clue that those communities know each other or work with each other. And if the Saviors ever found out, something really bad could happen. And Gregory almost gave it up, of course, when the Saviors started to come, and he almost gave Maggie and Sasha up. But before that even happened, Gregory got to see who was boss when the Saviors opened up the Hilltop gates and just put a loud car there that they could not get in. And Maggie had to roll it over with a tractor to actually, destroy it, so that the radio wouldn't go, and they had to close the gates and kill all the walkers there, which Sasha and Jesus helped out with. So it was a big ordeal that night, because it was just really crazy the extent that the Saviors would go to like trying to get the Hilltop's attention. And it really did get Gregory's attention, because he said, it really showed us who's in charge, who's the boss of us, while of course Simon and him are looking at the painting in Gregory's room. And Gregory is the type of man, I think, getting from this episode and the episodes that we've had in previous, I don't think that he is a very good leader, to be honest. And not in the fact that he didn't agree with Maggie, or he wants them gone or whatnot. Not in that sense, but the fact that he's very weak, and not that he can really stand up to the Saviors. That's not what I mean at all. But he just agrees. It seems like he agrees with anything thrown his way. Like, oh, the Saviors do this. Oh, yep, I agree with that. Oh, yep, you're in charge. Yep, it's loud and clear. Yep. Oh, we're friends. Yep. And they just keep going on with their day. But Gregory doesn't really seem to have a problem with that, because in fact he was going to give up Maggie and Sasha, and they weren't in that closet, luckily, but he was going to do it. It's not like he hesitated to do it. He went straight for the closet. So we know what his intentions were. I think he's a very weak leader, and sometime in the future, I think that he is going to end up dying. And my prediction, actually, is that obviously the Kingdom, Alexandria, and the Hilltop are the three groups that the Negan and the Saviors are controlling. But I don't know if Gregory, maybe since he's taking off of power now, maybe because Maggie's there, but if Gregory is still the leader, if he was, it would be very difficult for him, I think, to side with the Alexandrians and the Kingdom to try and even take revenge out on Negan, because Gregory's just that type of person. So overall, I think that Gregory, I think that he's going to die. I think he's going to be one of the first to die by someone, if not Negan himself. And that's a very interesting point, actually, that I'd like to make out as well, is that when Simon and Gregory were talking, they were actually talking as if Simon was Negan. He was acting for Negan, and it's just like a sign that how far Negan has gone to brainwash everything. Now, Simon wasn't acting as if he actually was Negan. He was just taking his place, since Negan actually himself was not there. But you could just really tell from the previous episodes and this episode how dedicated and brainwashed Negan made his group of Saviors out to be. And right now it seems like a good thing, but because they are so brainwashed, it could end up being a bad thing for later on. So we are definitely going to have to see about this whole Negan Savior with the Alexandrians, Kingdom, and Hilltop scenario plays out. And we know that eventually something's going to happen where they're going to go to war with each other. Going back to previous roots, we see Enid starting to really bond with Carl again. It's a very interesting thing, because it was a rough relationship back even when they met each other back in season 5, the end of 5, 6 more or less. And it was just a really weird relationship, because at some point she agreed with him, she'd get on his bandwagon, and then at other points she just wanted to be completely alone. She's a very different and unique child, and I think that she knows what she wants and wants to do and how to get her point across. But Carl, I don't know, he sees that and just takes it upon himself to get further than her so that he can try and be with her, if that makes any sense. Of course, along the way, they start really bonding, and they find roller skates and they go roller skating. And it's just it's a clean moment within the show, within this specific episode, but within the show, actually, in general, because we don't really get to see moments like this anymore. Because when you take a look at it and you think about it even, everything is all about, in this season especially, it's all about the Saviors and where they're going to be next, where is their next move. When in reality, we're missing everything that is literally right in front of us, and that is the people that we love. And I think that they tried to show that within this episode, especially with the great cinematic shots that they had between them roller skating. But even before that, it was very suspenseful when Carl was driving a car and he backed it into everything and just smashed the two walkers to save Enid. Well, I guess save her. She probably could have fought them off herself, but he just came out of nowhere. And at first we didn't even know it was Carl. And I like the cinematic view that we get, rolling up onto the car, and then it kind of we see who is in the car. It's like, oh, it's Carl. Well, why? Well, we don't know. But also another thing that is very, very funny that I like to point out, Carl is almost as shitty as a driver as his mother was. Remember that back in season 2? Lori, oh my god, she was in pure, just regular, this afternoon daylight, nobody on the road, and she still crashes. Oh man. But anyways, obviously that was an unintentional moment. That was just something funny to talk about, not any symbol or anything there. But we start to see Carl and Enid bond within this episode, especially after the fact when they do arrive at the hilltop, because we know that they're going to encounter the Saviors there, since we know that the Saviors are already there. And Carl obviously wants to take revenge, but Enid sort of stops him from doing it there, because obviously Carl would have been captured or even dead in a really bad scenario. But instead he hops in the back of a truck, as we learn later on at the end of this episode. But they start to really bond, and they actually take their first kiss, which is, I think it's a little bit weird at first when we get to see it, because it's like a relationship that she wanted to happen, but it was just really weird, because it didn't just grow overnight. It's happened over the course of an entire season with ons and offs. So it's very, and especially since now Enid is splitting up from Carl, where she knows exactly where he's going and what he's doing. And it's also interesting to point out that Jesus, which at the end Sasha makes Jesus follow the truck back to the sanctuary where the Saviors are to try and find out where Negan is, and Sasha wants to keep this away from Maggie, right? So Maggie has no idea about this at all. Enid knows Carl is in that truck, and Sasha knows that Jesus is in that truck. And Jesus at the end looks at Carl yeah, I think we could do this. Yeah, let's work together. Oh, hi. They just found each other there. But Maggie has absolutely no clue about that at all. But it's weird because, like I said, Enid knows Carl's there. Sasha knows Jesus is there. But Enid and Sasha don't know that the other one is there. And Maggie has no clue about it at all. So it's definitely a very interesting scenario. And I really am looking forward to seeing how that is going to play out, how they even escape from that, because aren't the Saviors going to go look back in that truck? They're going to have to really, jump out before they even get there and see what's going on, because, obviously it's not going to be a good sight if Negan opens up the back truck and, oh, look, it's our friends from the hilltop and the Alexandrians. Okay, well, time to take Lucille out and take a good swing. So as we know, Gregory, as the leader, he is very pissed at Jesus for putting Maggie and Sasha in his own closet, but at the same time, he's also pissed because he just lost all of his alcohol that he had to give over to Simon so that he could give it to Negan. And it was just, and I don't even know what they were thinking, or what he was thinking anyways, because even if the Saviors did show up, which they did anyways, what if they still found his alcohol in his bedroom closet, even though Jesus obviously moved it into that closet so that he could protect Maggie and Sasha? And then after the fact of that, Maggie's just really pissed off at Gregory, and Sasha is as well, but Maggie is even more so, because Gregory's not even calling her by her name. He's using side names or names that are not even hers. And the fact that he stole Glenn's pocket watch, he didn't just take it in and say, oh yeah, it's a nice pocket watch, but it shouldn't be out there in all the weather and everything, if it's raining or whatnot. And if he put it inside and left it on a table or put it somewhere nice, then that's fine. But he kept it for his own use, which shows that he really has no intention of caring whatsoever for Maggie. And that really upsets her, and she gets really mad, smacks him, and she really emphasizes the fact that you're not going to call me this anymore, or this or that. You're going to call me Maggie Rhee, and emphasizes the N name as Rhee, because obviously, of course, she is married, I think in her mind, she still is married. She was married. Obviously, Glenn is, no longer here with us, sadly, but she really wants to emphasize that, and it's just the point with the pocket watch, and that it's just like a really symbolic thing within this episode. So at the end, we see Enid place the green balloons that she's had on the gravesite of Glenn and Abraham, and that's obviously another huge symbol, as we know, because back in Season 5 and more into Season 6, we obviously know that Glenn, and they use the balloons as a symbol that Glenn is still alive, and it's just really like, they use that, and Enid used those balloons to show that he was still alive, or what have you, and the balloons were used in that way for Glenn, and now they are at the end at the gravesite, and it's just interesting how Enid would put them there. Now, obviously, they're there because of a memorial, a dedication, a direction, but just the green balloons themselves were indicative of the things that happened in the past with Glenn, and now I think that they serve like a really nice finisher on just making a memoriam to Glenn. All the way from the start and into the end. And of course, Abraham as well, because Abraham came in during Season 4, and then at first, we really had no idea what he was going to do. It seemed like he was going to be this really bad villain from the way that he looked, but he turned out to be one of the best characters on the show, in my own opinion. And just the green balloons themselves, a very nice touch that Enid would have to do in the show. And I think that they really haven't shown her a lot in previous episodes, and especially in Season 7, but in this season I feel like they're showing more of her, because I feel like something big is going to happen with just her, since now they're showing Carl and Enid, because why would they be showing a side story of like Carl and Enid when there are other bigger things that need to happen? When you're talking about Negan and Rick and all the hilltop, the kingdom, why put a lot of emphasis on Enid when you could be focusing more on main characters? And so I feel like she's going to play a bigger part as the season turns up, especially since she knows where Carl is, and like I said, where Sasha knows where Jesus is. And I think that that's going to play like a huge role in episodes coming up further. So obviously we know Carl and Jesus are going to be teaming up together. Will this go well? Obviously the teamwork is excellent, because having teamwork in this world and even in real life is a very important thing. But at the same time, for even plotting their revenge, trying to find out where they are, maybe not necessarily doing anything at that particular time, but at least starting a revenge cycle could help them, as long as they don't get caught. So we'll have to see more on that in the future. But something very interesting I found was the preview of next week's episode. We see these two random girls who I've never seen in my entire life strolling across a beach, and we see Tara there, washed up. So I don't even know what to think, because we haven't seen Tara for a very long time. So, yeah, I don't even know. We obviously see her in future preview little mini clips of the next episodes to come within the season. And it looks like she's really doing a great job of fighting. And obviously we knew that, obviously, that she is pregnant in real life. Not in the show, but obviously in real life. So it kind of has an impact on her character. And I feel like that's why they didn't necessarily show her, because it's just a little bit difficult on her now in real life terms. But it's glad to see that she comes back in somewhat of a way. But it's very interesting, because the place that the two kids are in are really in a weird way. When I was watching the preview, I'm like, is this even like Walking Dead, or is this Fear the Walking Dead, where they're in the water? So it was definitely a very weird, interesting place. I don't even know where they would be, but we'll have to see when that comes next time. So anyways, if you did enjoy this week's episode of The Walking Dead Reviews, you know what to do. I'll see you on next week's episode. This is NinjaGeek. I'm out. and peace.